All right.
Cool, kia ora. Kia ora everyone, my name is Corey, I'm one of the accessibility advisors.
Yeah, my name's Terry, I'm also an accessibility advisor.
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge, part of our presentation, we've got one of our students who's registered with us. Her name is Mel Groves, so she will talk on her behalf about her experience being under our service and what it's like for her. As you can see in this first slide, we thought we'd begin with our vision, which is to work collaboratively with students at the University of Waikato to empower individuals with impairments to reach their goals and achieve their full academic potential. There's two words I thought might be important to hold on to is collaboratively and empowerment. This is something that we would like to kind of foster around students like yourselves or those experience some form of impairment, that we work together collaboratively to empower you. Some of the things I'd like to touch on just at the start is our name, Accessibility Services. So we are part of the disability support sector, but it's important to understand why we recently changed our name as of a year and a half ago, 2 years, mainly just to reduce stigma, not only for students who currently experience an impairment, but also throughout your journey as a student, you might encounter an accident or a fall, and having the word disability could probably be a barrier. So that can be a bit more inviting. Move on to the next slide. Oh, and before, sorry, we talk about where we're located. If you have any questions, just type it up on that chat bar, and then we'll answer it after this. Cool. So where we're located. So yeah, we're based on the Hamilton campus, as you can see in this picture here. We're in the Student Centre, or some of you might call it the library building, opposite the campus bookshop. As you can tell, there's access points for those who have mobility issues, so there's lifts there. And as you can see through the doors just to the left of your screen, we see that banner, Accessibility Services, so we're pretty much close to the entrance. Also like to acknowledge even though we're based here, obviously there's students all over the country, especially Tauranga. We have some awesome Tauranga staff there who are willing to support you for your experience. And they can definitely help out with kind of engaging around, accessibility support. They get in contact with us, and so there's that kind of transition there, support for those Tauranga students.
Yeah, it's good to know that we do get over to Tauranga as well. So if we need to head over there, if you're online here today and you are from Tauranga, that we can get over there. But yeah, we certainly do rely on the staff that we've got over there as well. So same services run in Tauranga as we run here in Hamilton. We'll talk about services soon.
Cool. And lastly, I'd like to also acknowledge those students who are distance learning as well. Accessibility services definitely can help in that space, even though if you're located on the other side of the country. I'd like to let you know if you're distance learning, we're there to support as well. Okay. All right, I'll just start with this. So before we get into the registration process, it's probably good to understand who can access the services. So it can range from many different things, from like long-term chronic issues. You have more the physical. We have those who have vision impairments, hearing impairments, mobility issues, so in a wheelchair or in crutches. Some have spinal issues as well, through to the specific learning disabilities. So that would come under dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. So there's all that stuff you don't see as well. It's important to acknowledge. Those under the spectrum, autistic spectrum disorder, and definitely mental health, anxiety, depression. And these are kind of the common concerns that most of the students we've experienced working with.
It's probably good to know. If something is impacting on study, potentially we can support you. So we're always open to a conversation, willing to look at whatever the need is and how we can support.
Yeah. And also I'd like to highlight temporal injuries. Those you may have an accident or have surgery, and it's only for a short period of time. This service is also for you as well. We get a high number of students who are not aware that some of the services we help out with, they could have accessed earlier. So keep that in mind. So with the registration process, it's a free service, to acknowledge that, so you don't have to pay anything. And if you access our services, it won't show up on your academic transcripts if you're worried about that.
It doesn't follow you, so it doesn't follow you that you've used the service. So what we're all about is equity. So yeah, just making sure that the playing field is even.
Cool. Yeah, so, and that leads into like confidentiality. So part of the process is we give you a form, you fill it out, and it's normally with a supporting document. So from a doctor or a specialist, very confidential. So that means between our service, we store everything on a digital folder. Only myself and Terry has access to it. And also like to highlight a bit about consent. So the consent around registration is when you sign up with us, you do consent for us to make contact with your lecturers, but definitely it's not in detail. We don't describe everything that you're experiencing, just that you have access to our services and we can mediate with them.
But generally, we're going to have a conversation with you beforehand, letting you know that we're potentially looking at having a conversation with some of the academic staff. So you're involved in that.
Yeah. And, we get a high number of students who, let's say for most of your study experience from high school, you've never had that assessment, and but we're more than willing to kind of help out with that process. We get students who may have experienced dyslexia but not have a formal diagnosis. Don't worry about that. Come and see us. We're more willing than happy to help with that. Just so it's kind of not, restricting any of the supports that we can offer. Yeah. All right. So yeah.
So that's just talking about our registration process again and the supporting documentation that we need. So we're more than happy for you to fill out the medical form that we have as part of our registration, or if you have something as well that's current. And when we say current, this is a tricky one. We will accept dated documentation if we're looking at specific learning, so like dyslexia and or autism assessment. So we know that they can take place sort of in childhood or in your teens, and generally we know that they don't fluctuate and change too much, so we'll accept those.
Yeah. And it's important for us to know that even though it's good to have that kind of recommendation, because it highlights for us that you're also seeking support outside of the university. And we're really looking at it holistically as well. So we want to make sure that you're not only supported through our service here, through the other services at the university, but there is also that engagement, because there's a lot of things that we understand that happens outside of uni. So make sure that you're taken care of. So this slide here, so I'd like to talk about one of our supports. So this is around test and exam arrangements. And I can kind of give you a bit of insight on what that looks like. So an example would be here, if you experience dyslexia, and some of the most common areas of support that we do offer around, for example, reader-writer support. We understand there's difficulties and kind of understanding the content, so there's a lot of kind of going back and forth, checking that information, and that can use up time whenever you're doing a test or exam. And so as you can see in this picture here, we've got one that has more of a cubicle situation. You've got a desk to yourself. You've got extra time if needed. And then to the right, it's more of a separate room where we might have a reader-writer there as well. We also have students who have like back problems. It's just you in the room. So if you feel comfortable just standing up, walking around, lying on the floor, that's your space there, just so we can acknowledge that there is a lot for you when it comes down to this situation and you're not restricted. Cool. So that's just for alternative test exams. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we have a student, Mel. I'm wondering if she's linked in. Oh, hey, Mel.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for coming on board and participating in this presentation.
Hey, look, it's my pleasure, absolute pleasure. I'm happy to be here and to help support what you're offering for prospective students coming up this year. So not a problem.
Awesome. Well, we'll leave this time to you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So first off, I'd like to give a big thank you very much to Terry and to Corey, who have supported me throughout my journey. I haven't come to the end of that yet, so they're going to see me for a little while. But my name's Mel Groves. I'm based in Rotorua, and sometimes I travel over where it's necessary to the campus there in Hamilton. I'm in my second year as a psychology and human development major, doing a Bachelor of Social Science. And it wasn't an easy thing for me personally to step into. I'm what you would consider maybe an older student, even though I don't feel that way. 37, and it was because of my disability that held me back from believing that I was capable of taking part in higher forms of education. So when I firmly made the decision I needed to investigate what sorts of support networks I can access, and upon my investigating I come across the accessibility services and started emailing Terry, just asking him, how do I access the support, what sorts of things do I need to do in order to jump on board, and he ran through very similar forms of information which they're delivering in this webinar, which is very familiar to the stuff that I read in my first initial email. So as Terry and Corey explained, I needed to see a specialist and have a diagnosis. I hear they're going to be a bit more lenient on those who suspect they may have the disorder now, but back when I did it, I went out, and it was really important for me too, just on a personal level, to have that firm diagnosis done. So dyslexia is a neurological disorder, and it's on a spectrum. It's actually more common than people think. So if you do suspect that you have dyslexia, you're probably right. It affects 1 in every 5 students, so that's quite a large portion of students really when you think about it. And being on a spectrum, you will have a dyslexia to a certain degree. So I'm not saying that you do or you don't, I'm just saying if you believe you may, it's worth checking out anyway. So I had my assessment, and finally I was able to jump on board. I signed all my forms like the boys were speaking of, and we went from there. Some of the services that I was able to tap into were especially around assessments. So reader and writer. At one point, I think they even offered me a note taker, but there are the notes that you can access sometimes if the lecturer is feeling kind enough to put them online. But that note taking for a while was really helpful. We also had, for me as a form of support, was the reader and the writer when it came to assessments. Now with dyslexia, for those who are not aware, it really is about the obstruction of absorbing written forms of language. So I'm a big sort of audio learner, and when I have things read to me, I'm able to absorb that information with a lot more clarity than I can if I'm just to read the information on a piece of paper. So it's important to have someone there that can either hear me read and then correct when I get something wrong, or they can read for me and then I can accurately gather the information, which is really important when you're trying to answer examination questions, because it makes the difference between answering that question right and answering it wrong is your ability to determine what the question is asking in the first place. Other forms of support that I received from the disabilities services as well, or the accessibility service, sorry. There are computers dotted around the place on the floors. There is a few floors where you've got a accessibility computer there that you can use, and I've found them really helpful because they've got specialised programs on those computers that can help reading content that's on the screen. So that's been really helpful. With me, before I started my journey, like I said, I wasn't too sure whether or not university was a place that was going to sort of be a nurturing environment for me. And anybody who has a disability, I like to think that it's almost like a track and field race, where on your track, when you have a disability, you've got all these extra little hurdles that you try and run and to jump over, and then you've got to complete the race somehow. But with the disability service, they try and eliminate some of these hurdles for you, and helping to communicate with lecturers on your behalf, especially if you don't you don't feel as though you want to do something that for yourself, or if you can, that's really great, and they'll support you to do that as well. And the boys there are just absolute gems when it comes to supporting anybody through their journey in education with the University of Waikato. So other things too, maybe there'll be times where I have a test and I need to use a computer. So that's great too, because the computer can be set up in a way where you're able to do all your tests, examinations on the computer, and then the information is then taken off the computer and handed over. And obviously if you're having difficulties with reading and writing, the computer with its spell check is another way of you being able to be more empowered to write on your own without having a writer there. But you also may need to have the reader there. So it's all about empowering, and it's all about allowing you to show what your abilities are and taking less focus away on your disabilities. So that's just a little bit from me, but if anybody does have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. If anyone would like to get in contact with either Terry or Corey and ask me something privately, I'm more than happy to help as well. There are little tricks and tips that I've happened to collect along the way, but I'm going to share them with the boys and allow them to share them with you all. And I'm wishing you guys all the best with your journey, and I hope to see you around. And yeah, if you bump into me, don't be shy, please say hi. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Mel. Thank you for your time, and also for inviting others to kind of have a chat with you as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can I just really want to acknowledge Mel, and if you can take a leaf out of her book. I know Mel is somebody who is very proactive in lots of ways, but proactive if things aren't going well for her in regards to study. She gets onto it early. At times she's involved us if she can't problem solve herself. So it just stops that snowball effect. So I'd really just encourage you all, if things aren't going well, come see us, chat to us. We're more than happy to problem solve with you or sort of point you in the right direction if it's not us. Yeah, thanks again, Mel.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. And I'll move to the next slide. Mel mentioned some other support. So in the previous slide, we talked about mainly the test and exam support, but there are other areas. As you can see, note-taking. So maybe you can just kind of talk a bit about what each support looks like. So note-taking is essentially having a note-taker in the classroom. So these are like the big lecture rooms. And having access to those notes. And our note-takers are essentially students who are enrolled in that paper as well. And the important thing about the note taker is they need to capture, the very most important parts of the lecture, because a lot can be said. I guess fortunately there is the online access as well, but that doesn't take away the fact that we still offer the note taking service. So we have the note taking service there. Reading material in alternative formats. We've got a number of, for example, students with visual impairments, and they use certain software. Kind of helps with the reading. And so just adjusting some of the, for example, PDF documents you might find or anything online, apparently there's a proper way to format that so the software could work. So we can work around that. For example, sign language interpreting is pretty straightforward. We are in contract with an external sign language interpreter, so we've got that. And that last point around advocating, liaisoning in lectures, even that can cover a range of things. One thing could be like if our service may not be the most appropriate, we met a limit on what we can help out with. We can definitely liaise with not only lecturers, but also other student support services.
Yeah, we can, again, it comes back to our vision statement of trying to empower you, the student, as much as possible. But there comes a time when we're more than willing to kind of, I guess, step in and maybe take a lead on a conversation or anything like that, or if things potentially aren't going as they should according to you, again, we can advocate, step in and try and sort of see how we can help and change the situation for you for the better.
Yeah, definitely. So this is our contact details. So yeah, got both our numbers, email address. If you don't have any credit, hey, flick us an email. We know that most students trouble with calling, and we're on it pretty much from our hours, Terry and I, so one of us will get in touch with you. Also our location there and our direct dial.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have had some questions, and we'll leave our contact details up while we're kind of going through this. So yeah, we have had a question about accessing the recording again. I'm not 100% sure.
Should be tomorrow
Should be tomorrow. How would that pop up?
on University YouTube channel.
University YouTube channel. So if you, YouTube, University of Waikato, you should be able to find what you need there to be able to view these again. So they'll pop up again. And we've had a question about are we able to receive electronic documentation for diagnosis? Absolutely, absolutely. If you can scan it, get it through to us. Worst case, we don't sort of encourage it, but worst case, we also accept photos. As long as it's clear and we can, read the information, then, we will accept it. But if you want to drop it in, that's absolutely fine. But scan, email through, that's awesome as well.
And it will be through the accessibility services
Yeah.
mailbox. But yeah,
Any other questions that anybody wants to sort of quickly type up before we sort of start slowly looking at wrapping it up? We wait?
if not, take a look at the video or even email us. We'll be on it. Oh, here we go.
Yep. So
That's the same one.
Yep. So that was about seeing the recording again. I want to see the recording again. Cool. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, it'll be available on YouTube.
Great. Well, thank you for your time.
So, sorry. Can I get started on my registration now, even though I'm not on campus? Oh, look, absolutely. Yep, we certainly do encourage, again, it's that proactive support. Yes, that's absolutely fine. If you want to get a hold of us on the details there, flick us through an email and we can get a copy of the registration form through to you and then just get it through to us. We can have a phone conversation with you. If you're, not around on campus, you've got questions, yeah, definitely. Second slide, I saw that there was a two eTutes. Oh,
Talk about that.
yeah.
Yeah. So, should I go to the second slide? Well, so where we're located. So you notice if I'm going to go back, if that's okay, just to our space there. You'll notice to the left is where we are, but to the right of the building we have our eTutes and also our student learning. So there's a few teams in there. And those who don't know who eTutes are, they're basically e-tutors who help out with a lot of the Moodle online learning stuff. So yeah, this is a location where they are as well.
So just two other services that can support that, I guess, would have had a bit of a presence on these webinars too, I'd like to think.
Yeah.
But really encourage, accessing both of those, eTutes and student learning to help you.
Cool. Next question is, does Tauranga have testing accommodation rooms? Yes, they do.
Yeah.
So they've got individual rooms which we use, and we organise that through with our Tauranga colleagues.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Good questions. I think we'll wrap it up. But yeah, if you have more questions, flick us an email. But thank you for your time, and good luck. And hopefully we get to engage with you in the future.
Okay. Thank you all.